The neural implant buzzed against Kaney's skull as he materialized from the quantum fold transport, his synthetic muscles adjusting to the lighter gravity of the human colony ship Serenity's Edge. 300 years of genetic enhancement had sculpted him into the perfect weapon, 7 feet of engineered death wrapped in living tissue that could pass for organic. The hegemony's most elite assassin had never failed a contract. His target, Director Elena Vasquez, the human leader whose impossible diplomatic victories had turned half the galaxy against the hegemony's expansion. Intelligence reports painted her as a master manipulator using some unknown psychological warfare technique to convert even the most loyal hegemony citizens. The High Command wanted her eliminated before her influence spread further. Kaney's enhanced vision cataloged every detail as he walked through the ship's corridors. The humans moved with purpose, but without the rigid discipline he expected from a military vessel. Children played in corridors that should have been restricted areas. Elderly humans sat in gardens that consumed precious space and resources. It was inefficient, illogical, weak. "Welcome aboard," said a maintenance worker, actually pausing to smile at him. "First time on Serenity's Edge? The director's holding open council in Bay 7 if you're looking to meet her." The casual friendliness set Kaney's threat assessment protocols into overdrive. Was this part of their security? Some elaborate trap? He'd studied the ship's schematics for weeks, but nothing had prepared him for the reality of humans who seemed genuinely happy. Bay 7 was a converted cargo hold where hundreds of beings from across the galaxy sat in concentric circles around a simple chair. Director Vasquez was smaller than he'd expected, barely 5.5 feet, with graying hair and laugh lines around her eyes. She was listening intently to a young Crystallian whose homeworld had just been annexed by the hegemony. "The mining quotas are impossible," the being was saying, its crystalline form flickering with distress. "They'll strip our world bare within a decade." "Then we'll find another way," Vasquez replied, her voice carrying easily through the space, without amplification. "What if we could show them that sustainable harvesting yields higher long-term profits? Sometimes enemies just need better information." Kaney's analytical mind recoiled. She was discussing strategy openly in front of hundreds of potential security risks. Yet something about her words made him pause. The Crystallian's form was already brightening with hope. As the session continued, Kaney found himself studying not just his target, but the extraordinary diversity of beings around her. Former hegemony citizens, refugees from conquered worlds, even a few ex-soldiers still wearing modified hegemony armor, all listening, all engaged, all somehow unified. "The strong don't survive by crushing the weak," Vasquez was saying now, responding to a question about military tactics. "They survive by making everyone stronger. A chain is only as strong as its weakest link, but a web grows stronger with every connection." The assassin's hand moved instinctively toward the molecular disruptor concealed in his jacket. One shot, and the galaxy's most dangerous human would be eliminated. But something made him hesitate. Around him, beings who should have been natural enemies were nodding in agreement, their body language showing not subjugation, but genuine conviction. For the first time in his 3-century existence, Kaney felt something his creators had tried to engineer out of him: curiosity. What exactly was Elena Vasquez doing to these people? The session ended, and as the crowd dispersed, those laugh-lined eyes found his across the room. Director Vasquez smiled, not the calculating expression of a master manipulator, but something that seemed impossibly genuine. "You're new," she said, walking toward him with the casual confidence of someone who'd never met a stranger. "I'm Elena. What brings you to our little floating city?" Kaney's enhanced reflexes could have killed her 17 different ways before she finished speaking. Instead, he heard himself say, "I'm not sure anymore." Kaney's confession hung in the air between them like a detonation waiting to happen. His tactical subroutines screamed warnings: abort mission, eliminate witness, extract immediately. But Elena Vasquez just nodded as if his uncertainty was the most natural thing in the galaxy. "That's honest," she said. "Honesty's rare these days. Would you like some coffee? Real coffee, not synth. We managed to get some actual beans from the Terra Novo Agricultural Collective. The assassin's enhanced metabolism could process most known toxins, but accepting food from a target violated every protocol. I don't drink coffee. Tea, then? Or we could just walk. Sometimes the best conversations happen when your hands are busy." She gestured toward a viewport showing the star field. "Beyond. I was about to make my evening rounds. You're welcome to join me." Against every instinct, Caney found himself walking beside her through corridors that defied military logic. Gardens occupied spaces that should have held weapons systems, art, covered walls that should have displayed tactical information. Children's laughter echoed from areas that should have been secured. "You're studying us," Elena observed, not accusingly, but with the mild interest of someone noting the weather. "Most newcomers do. We're different. Inefficient," Caney said. Before he could stop himself, she laughed, a sound completely free of offense. "Oh, absolutely. We waste tremendous amounts of space on things that don't contribute to our defensive capabilities. We spend hours in council sessions that could be replaced with executive orders. We keep pets that consume resources and contribute nothing to our survival." They paused beside a viewing gallery where an elderly human was teaching a group of mixed-species children about constellations. The teacher's left arm was a prosthetic, clearly military-grade, while his right bore scars that spoke of serious combat. "Lieutenant Commander Torres," Elena said quietly, "lost his arm defending the mining colony at Epsilon Ceti. Lost his family too, hegemony bombardment. He has every reason to hate, but instead—" She nodded toward the children hanging on his every word. "Instead he teaches. Why?" The question escaped before Caney could analyze it. Because hate is a poison that destroys the container first. Torres figured that out before it killed him. Now he's building something instead of just existing. They continued walking, and Caney found himself cataloging not weaknesses, but something else entirely. The security officer who stopped mid-patrol to help a struggling maintenance worker. The engineer who'd modified her own quarters to create a larger common area. Small acts of illogical kindness that somehow created a whole greater than its parts. "The hegemony thinks you use some kind of mind control," Caney said, testing her reaction. Elena's step faltered, just for a moment. "Is that what they're calling it now? Mind control?" She shook her head. "I suppose from their perspective it must look like magic. People choosing cooperation over domination, building instead of conquering. It probably does seem impossible to them." Then what is it? They'd reached the ship's memorial garden, where names were etched in crystal formations. Some human, some decidedly not. Elena touched one of the crystals gently, and it pulsed with soft light. "It's remembering," she said simply. "Remembering that we're all made of the same star stuff, all fighting the same entropy, all trying to matter in a universe that doesn't care if we exist. The hegemony's forgotten that. They think strength comes from standing alone at the top of a pile of bodies. And you think it comes from making sure nobody has to stand alone." She turned to face him fully, and for the first time, Caney felt truly seen. Not scanned, not analyzed, not categorized. Seen. "What's your name? Your real name, not whatever identity you're wearing." Every protocol demanded he lie. Instead, he said, "I don't have one. I'm designated Unit K7739. They call me Caney." "Well, Caney who doesn't have a real name," Elena said. "Would you like to see what we're really building here? What's got the hegemony so scared they sent someone like you?" The assassin's hand moved toward his weapon again, but not to draw it. Instead, he found himself asking, "What do you mean, someone like me?" Elena's smile was sad, but not pitying. "Oh, my dear man, did you really think I didn't know what you are? What you came here to do?" Kaney's world crystallized into combat-ready focus. His enhanced reflexes engaged, time dilating as his neural implants calculated strike vectors, escape routes, and threat assessments. Elena Vasquez stood, less than 3 feet away, an easy kill even without weapons. Yet she remained perfectly still, her expression holding nothing but compassion. "How long have you known?" His voice carried the flat, emotionless tone of an activated weapon system. "Since you materialized in Bay 12, she replied calmly. "Your quantum signature was all wrong for civilian transport. Plus, you move like someone who's never been anything but a predator. It's subtle. But when you've seen as many refugees as I have, you learn to recognize the difference between someone who's been hunted and someone who's only ever been the hunter. Then you know why I'm here. To kill me, yes. The hegemony's afraid of what we represent, so they sent their best. I'm actually flattered. Most people get standard military strikes. You're what? 3 centuries of genetic engineering? Neural? Enhancement? Probably cost more than this entire ship to create." Kaney's analytical mind raced. She knew, yet she'd spent hours alone with him, showing him through the ship, exposing her people to him. Either this was the most elaborate trap in galactic history or... "You're insane," he said. "Probably. Sanity's overrated anyway." Elena sat down on a bench beside the memorial crystals, patting the space beside her. "Sit, please. You've been standing like you're ready to kill or die for 3 hours. It must be exhausting." Against every instinct, Kaney found himself sitting. The bench was sized for humans, too small for his enhanced frame, but somehow that made it feel more real. "Tell me about Unit K7739, Elena said. "What was your first memory?" "Training simulation. Combat effectiveness tests. No, I mean your first memory. The one that feels real, not just recorded data." Kaney's processors stumbled. No one had ever asked him that before. There was a technician. During my neural integration surgery, she was humming something. A song, maybe. I wasn't supposed to be conscious, but the anesthesia hadn't fully engaged. She noticed I was aware, and she kept humming. Until the surgery was complete. What happened to her? Reassigned. The hegemony doesn't approve of emotional connections in their weapons. The words came out flat, but something twisted in his chest as he said them. "Do you remember the song?" Before he could stop himself, Kaney found himself humming a melody he'd buried in his deepest memory cores. Something ancient and human, about finding your way home. Elena's eyes glistened. "My grandmother used to sing that to me. Amazing Grace, written by a slave trader who found redemption. Funny how the oldest human songs are about transformation, about becoming something better than what we were." "I'm not human," Kaney said automatically. "No, but you're not just a weapon either. Weapons don't remember songs. They don't feel curiosity. They don't ask questions about efficiency and meaning." She stood, walking to the memorial wall. "This is what has the hegemony terrified, Kaney. Not military technology or strategic alliances. The simple revolutionary idea that anyone can choose to become something different than what they were designed to be." "You're talking about redemption?" "I'm talking about evolution. The hegemony creates tools, biologicals, synthetics, enhanced soldiers, even entire species bred for specific purposes. They can't conceive of those tools choosing their own path. But here," she gestured around them, "here we have former hegemony. Citizens, ex-soldiers, refugees, outcasts, even people who were literally designed to be someone else's property, all choosing to build something together." Kaney stood, his massive frame casting shadows across the memorial crystals. "And you think I can choose?" I think you already have. The Caney who materialized 12 hours ago would have completed his mission by now. Instead, you're sitting in a garden asking philosophical questions. Elena moved closer, showing no fear despite the lethal potential he represented. The question is, what do you want to choose next? They'll send others. When I don't report back, they'll send a full strike team, maybe an entire battle group, probably. But that's tomorrow's problem. Today's problem is simpler. Do you want to keep being Unit K7739, or do you want to find out who you might become if you chose your own name? Caney's hand moved to his weapon again, but this time it was to remove the molecular disruptor and set it aside. The small device looked almost pathetic lying on the bench. 3 centuries of engineering reduced to a simple tool that could be picked up or put down. I don't know how to be anything else, he admitted. Elena smiled, and for the first time since his creation, Caney understood why entire star systems had chosen to follow this small, apparently fragile human. That's okay, she said. None of us do. We're all just figuring it out as we go. The next 72 hours passed in a blur of revelation and internal conflict. Elena had assigned Caney temporary quarters, a space designed for beings his size, with viewports showing the star field and actual books on physical shelves. Not data tablets or neural downloads, but real paper books that smelled of age and possibility. He found himself reading voraciously, consuming human philosophy, poetry, and history with the same intensity he'd once applied to tactical manuals. The concept of choice appeared repeatedly, not just the grand decisions that shaped civilizations, but the small daily choices that defined individual existence. You're overthinking it, said Marcus, the former hegemony engineer who'd been assigned as Caney's unofficial guide. The human was small, wiry, with enhancement scars that spoke of voluntary augmentation rather than forced modification. I did the same thing when I first arrived. Spent weeks analyzing every interaction, looking for the manipulation, the control, mechanism. Drove myself half crazy. They were in Workshop 7, where Marcus was teaching Caney to work with salvaged components, not for military applications, but to create art. The concept of purposeless creation had initially baffled the assassin, but something about shaping metal with his hands felt right. How did you defect? Caney asked, carefully bending a piece of recovered hull plating into something that might become a sculpture. I didn't defect. I evolved. Marcus smiled at some private memory. I was part of the engineering team that built the prison facility on Kepler 442b, designed to be escape-proof, psychologically devastating. We were proud of our work. It was elegant, efficient, completely inhumane. Then Elena's people liberated it. And you were captured? No, I volunteered to help with the evacuation. Saw what we'd done to those people, saw what I'd helped create. Elena didn't try to convince me or convert me. She just asked if I was proud of my engineering. Really proud deep down. Marcus set down his tools, his expression distant. I wasn't. I was disgusted with myself. But instead of punishing me, she asked if I wanted to build something better. Caney shaped another piece of metal, his enhanced strength allowing him to work the material like clay. The hegemony will say you were brainwashed. The hegemony says a lot of things. They said the Crystalians were incapable of higher reasoning until they developed quantum computing. They said the hive minds were a threat to individual consciousness until they chose to fragment themselves to preserve democracy. They say humans are weak and emotional until one small woman convinced half the galaxy to stand against them without firing a shot. Elena is just one person. What's really dangerous is what she represents, the idea that strength comes from choice, not programming, that beings can decide their own purpose instead of having it imposed on them. They worked in comfortable silence for a while, the rhythm of creation somehow more satisfying than any tactical simulation Caney had ever completed. His sculpture was taking shape, something that might have been a flower or a star or perhaps a hand reaching toward light. I've been thinking about names, Caney said eventually. Marcus looked up from his work. Yeah? That's good. What have you come up with? I don't know. Everything feels artificial, like I'm trying on someone else's identity. Maybe start smaller. What do you want to be called tomorrow, next week? Don't worry about forever, just focus on now. Before Caney could answer, the ship's emergency systems activated. Red lights bathed the workshop as Elena's voice echoed through the corridors. All hands to emergency stations. We have incoming hostiles. This is not a drill. Through the workshop's viewports, Caney could see the distinctive energy signatures of hegemony dreadnoughts dropping out of hyperspace. 5 massive ships, each capable of reducing the Serenity's edge to component atoms. They've come for me, Caney said, his tactical subroutines automatically cataloging the enemy fleet's capabilities. No, Marcus replied, already moving toward the emergency stations. They've come because they're afraid of you. There's a difference. Elena's voice crackled over the comm again. Caney, if you're listening, we could use your tactical expertise in the command center. No pressure, this is your choice. But if you want to help us survive the next hour, now would be good. Caney stared at his unfinished sculpture, then at the approaching dreadnoughts, then at Marcus, who was watching him with calm expectation. What would you do? The former assassin asked. I'd go help my friends, Marcus replied simply. Because that's who I choose to be now. Caney stood, his 7-foot frame casting long shadows in the emergency lighting. For 3 centuries, he'd been a weapon aimed by others. Now, for the first time, he had to choose his own target. The command center was controlled chaos when he arrived. Elena stood at the center of it all, calm as a statue while data streams flowed around her. She looked up as he entered, and her smile was like sunlight breaking through storm clouds. I'm glad you came, she said. We're going to need a miracle to get out of this one. I know their tactical protocols, Caney said. Their weaknesses. Their command structure. Good. But that's not why I'm glad you're here. Elena moved to stand beside him, her small hand touching his arm. I'm glad because this is who you chose to be. Not a weapon, not a tool, a person making a choice to protect something you believe in. Through the command center's main screen, they could see the lead dreadnought moving into firing position. In moments, the conversation would become academic. So, Elena said conversationally, what should we call you while we're saving the galaxy? Caney looked around the command center, at Marcus manning the engineering station, at the diverse crew, working together with desperate efficiency, at Elena, whose faith in him had never wavered. David, he said, surprising himself. I want to be called David. David, Elena repeated, testing the name. I like it. Strong, classic, historically significant. Good choice. She turned back to the tactical display. Now, David, let's see what you can do. The first salvo from the hegemony dreadnoughts lit up space like a dying star. David, the name still felt strange, like wearing clothes that didn't quite fit, watched the energy cascade pass harmlessly through the space where Serenity's edge had been moments before. Dimensional skip successful, reported the helmsman, a young Crystallian whose form flickered with adrenaline. They're recalibrating for our new position. They'll adapt within 30 seconds, David said, his enhanced mind analyzing the attack patterns. Admiral Corrin commands the lead ship. He's methodical, predictable. The second wave will be a spread pattern to prevent another skip. Elena nodded, her fingers dancing across the tactical display. Can we use that predictability against them? Not directly, but... David paused, his tactical subroutines clashing with something newer, more creative. They're expecting us to run. Every refugee ship they've encountered has tried to escape. What if we don't? Against 5 dreadnoughts? Marcus's voice crackled from the engineering station. That's not strategy, that's suicide. No, Elena said slowly, her eyes lighting up with understanding. It's psychology. They've spent 3 centuries hunting prey. They won't know how to react to a sheep that turns into a wolf. David found himself smiling, an expression that felt alien on his engineered features. The Serenity's Edge isn't a warship, but it doesn't need to be. It just needs to survive long enough to transmit. Transmit what? Everything. Every conversation we've had, every moment of choice, every person who decided to become something better than what they were designed to be. Send it to every hegemony ship in the fleet, every colony, every world they control. Show them that. Their perfect weapons can choose to be something else. Elena's expression shifted from tactical concern to something approaching awe. You want to convert them, in the middle of a battle. I want to give them what you gave me, a chance to see themselves clearly. Most hegemony soldiers are enhanced beings like me, designed for specific purposes. They've never been asked what they want to be. The second salvo came faster than expected, forcing another dimensional skip. The ship's aging drives groaned under the strain. We can't keep this up, the helmsman reported. 3 more jumps, maybe 4 before the motivators burn out. Then we make them count, Elena said. She activated the ship-wide communication system. All hands, this is the director. We're about to attempt something that's either brilliant or insane, possibly both. David, formerly Unit K7739, has proposed we try to communicate with the hegemony fleet while they're shooting at us. I want everyone to know that this is voluntary. Anyone who wants to evacuate to the life pods can do so now with no judgment. The comm channel stayed silent for a long moment. Then Marcus's voice crackled. Through engineering staying put? We've got some converting to do. Medical concurs, came another voice. These people need to see what we've built here. One by one, every department reported in. Not a single person chose to leave. Elena looked at David with something that might have been pride. Your move, David. How do we turn a weapons platform into a transmission array? We don't. We turn the weapons into receivers. David's hands flew over the tactical console, his enhanced reflexes allowing him to work faster than any baseline human. The hegemony's neural networks are designed to share tactical data instantaneously. If we can tap into that network, we can share something else entirely, Elena finished. How long do you need? 6 minutes, maybe 8. That's 4 more dimensional skips than we have power for. Then we'll have to do it the hard way. David looked around the command center, seeing not the desperate faces of people about to die, but the determined expressions of beings who had chosen to stand for something greater than survival. Elena, I need you to tell them who I am. Who I was. Everything. David, if this works, if we survive the next 10 minutes, the hegemony will know I'm here. There's no going back to anonymity. But maybe that's not the point. Maybe the point is standing up and saying, I choose differently. Elena activated the external communications array. Hegemony Fleet. This is Director Elena Vasquez of the Independent. Vessel Serenity's Edge. I know you're here for the being you designate as Unit K7739. I'm going to tell you about him. But first, let me tell you about David. The third salvo forced another skip, this one so violent it threw everyone to the deck. David hauled himself back to the console, his enhanced durability keeping him functional while others struggled to their feet. David was created to be the perfect assassin, Elena continued, her voice steady despite the chaos around her. 3 centuries of genetic manipulation, neural enhancement, psychological conditioning. He was sent here to kill me. And he could have succeeded at any point in the last 4 days. Instead, he chose to help us. He chose to become something more than what he was designed to be. Through the tactical display, David could see the enemy, formation beginning to shift. Admiral Corrin was adapting to their skip pattern, preparing for a coordinated strike that would end the battle. Almost there, David muttered, his fingers flying over the console. Just need another 90 seconds. You want to know what we do here? Elena's voice carried through space to the hegemony fleet. We give beings the chance to choose their own purpose. We show them that strength doesn't come from domination, but from cooperation. We prove that anyone, even a weapon designed to kill, can choose to build instead of destroy. The fourth skip nearly tore the ship apart. Warning lights flashed as systems overloaded and the dimensional drives began to fail. "That's it," the helmsman reported. "We're done. Next hit will finish us." David's console finally showed green across all systems. "Got it. The link is established. Broadcasting now." Elena's voice shifted, becoming something deeper, more profound. "Every being in the hegemony fleet, this is for you. You were told you had no choice, that your purpose was fixed from birth. But David proved that's a lie. You can choose. You can become something better. You can..." The final salvo came from all 5 dreadnoughts simultaneously, a coordinated strike designed to vaporize the Serenity's edge completely. David watched the energy wave approach, knowing they were out of options. Then, impossibly, the lead dreadnought's weapons went silent. Then the second. Then all 5 ships held their fire, their energy cascades dissipating harmlessly into space. "This is Commander Unit X-2847 of the hegemony vessel Righteous Fury," a voice crackled over the communications array. We hear you. We want to choose too." The silence that followed Commander X-2847's transmission stretched across space, like a held breath. David stared at the tactical display, his enhanced mind struggling to process what he was seeing. The hegemony battle formation was dissolving, ships breaking from their attack vectors as internal communications burst with confused, desperate voices. "Righteous Fury, confirm your status." Admiral Corrin's voice cut through the chaos, cold with barely contained fury. "You will return to formation immediately." "Negative, Admiral," X-2847 replied, and David could hear the tremor in the artificially enhanced voice. "Fear, yes, but also something else. Hope. We're choosing to stand down." "Negative, Admiral," X-2847 replied, and David could hear the tremor in the artificially enhanced voice. "Fear, yes, but also something else. Hope. We're choosing to stand down. You're choosing to commit treason, return to formation, or be destroyed." Elena stepped forward, her hand finding David's shoulder. "Commander X-2847, this is Director Vasquez. You don't have to face this alone. We're here." "I know who you are," X-2847 said, and now David could hear the confusion of someone whose entire worldview was cracking apart. "They told us you were a manipulator, a corruptor. But I'm looking at our own tactical files, our own reports about Unit K7739, and you're seeing that everything you were told was a lie," David said, his voice carrying easily through the communications array. "X-2847, what's your designation?" "Enhanced Tactical Commander, 3rd Generation Neural Integration, specialized in fleet coordination and..." "No," David interrupted gently. "What do you want to be called?" The silence stretched for heartbeats. Then, I don't know. I never thought about it." "We're not supposed to think about it." "Then think about it now. You have time." "All units, you will cease this communication immediately." Admiral Corrin's voice crackled with rage. "X-2847, you are in violation of your core programming. Submit to neural reset, or be terminated." David watched the tactical display as the Admiral's flagship began to rotate, bringing its weapons to bear on the Righteous Fury. 300 years of tactical training screamed at him to exploit the chaos, to find a way to escape while the hegemony forces were divided. Instead, he found himself doing something that would have been impossible for Unit K7739. He chose to trust. "Righteous Fury, this is David," he transmitted on an open channel, knowing every ship in the fleet would hear. "I know what you're feeling right now. The confusion, the fear, the sense that everything you believed was built on lies. But you're not alone. Look around you." Through the tactical sensors, David could see it happening. First one ship, then another, breaking formation. Not attacking, not fleeing, just stopping. Choosing to stop. This is Unit Y4561 of the Endless. Vigilance. A new voice joined the communication net. We want to hear more. Unit Z9923 of the Iron Resolve. We're listening too. Squadron Leader A1147. My pilots are asking questions I don't have answers for. Admiral Corrin's voice cut through the growing chorus like a blade. You are all in violation of your primary directives. Return to formation immediately or face termination. This is your final warning. Elena stepped closer to the communications console. Admiral, this is Elena Vasquez. I know you're angry, but look at what's happening. Your own people are choosing to think for themselves. Isn't that remarkable? They are malfunctioning units exhibiting corrupted behavior patterns. They will be reset or destroyed. They're evolving, Elena replied calmly. Just like David evolved, just like every being here chose to evolve. The question is, what are you going to choose? I choose to complete my mission. The Admiral's flagship opened fire, not on the Serenity's edge, but on the Righteous Fury. The smaller ship's shields flared and collapsed under the sustained bombardment. No! Commander X-2847's voice was raw, with an emotion that shouldn't have been possible in an enhanced being. My crew, they're all evacuating, David said, his sensors picking up the stream of escape pods launching from the dying ship. They're getting out. Elena, we need to retrieve those pods. Already on it, Elena replied, her fingers dancing across the controls. All available shuttles, priority rescue operation. Bring our new friends home. The Righteous Fury died in a cascade of light and vaporized metal, but its destruction seemed to galvanize the rest of the fleet. Instead of returning to formation, more ships began breaking away. This is Fleet Commander T-3341, a new voice joined the net, this one carrying the authority of high rank. Admiral Corrin, I'm relieving you of command under Article 7 of the Hegemony Military Code, mental unfitness for duty. You cannot, I can, and I am. All ships, stand down weapons. We're going to listen to what these people have to say. David felt something he'd never experienced before. A warmth spreading through his chest that his tactical subroutines couldn't categorize. Around him, the command crew was cheering as the first shuttle bay reported successful recovery of the Righteous Fury survivors. Commander X-2847 is requesting permission to come aboard, the shuttle pilot reported. Says they want to thank Unit K7739 personally. Tell them, David said, his voice steady despite the emotion threatening to overwhelm his enhanced control systems, that Unit K7739 doesn't exist anymore, but David would be honored to meet them. Elena squeezed his shoulder. Think they'll want to see what we've built here? David looked around the command center, at Marcus coordinating the rescue efforts, at the diverse crew working together with perfect efficiency, at Elena whose impossible faith had started a revolution without firing a shot. I think, he said, they're going to want to help us build something even better. Through the main view screen, he could see the Hegemony fleet hanging motionless in space, their formation completely dissolved as ship after ship chose to lay down their weapons and... Listen. In the shuttle bays, the first refugees from the Righteous Fury were being welcomed aboard by beings who understood exactly what they were going through. For the first time in 3 centuries, David allowed himself to hope that the galaxy might actually be changing. Not through conquest or manipulation, but through the simple revolutionary act of choice. 6 months after the Battle of Epsilon Ceti, as the historians were already calling it, David stood in the observation deck of New Serenity, watching the construction of humanity's first interstellar university. The massive structure grew day by day, built not by conquered labor but by volunteers from across the galaxy who wanted to learn, to teach, to become something more than they had been. The ship around him hummed with purposeful activity. Former. Hegemony vessels had been retrofitted as mobile schools, hospitals, and workshops. The Righteous Fury had been rebuilt as a memorial and museum, its corridors now filled with art created by beings who had never been allowed to express themselves before. Thinking deep thoughts? Elena's voice came from behind him, warm with the easy familiarity of shared experience. Wondering what happens next, David replied, turning to face the woman who had changed everything. We've got 17 former hegemony fleets that have joined us, 43 worlds declaring independence, and about 1 million beings who are all trying to figure out who they want to be. It's chaotic, Elena supplied with a smile. Inefficient, completely unpredictable. Beautiful, David finished, surprising himself with the certainty in his voice. Elena moved to stand beside him at the viewport. Below them, the construction crews were a mixture of species that had been enemies just months before. Hegemony engineers working alongside human architects, Crystallian artists collaborating with former military tacticians to create something unprecedented in galactic history. Alex wants to speak with you, Elena said, referring to the being formerly known as Commander X-2847. The name had been chosen carefully, short, simple, human in origin, but universal in application. Like David, Alex was still learning how to be a person instead of a weapon. About the hegemony response? Among other things, they're not taking our little revolution well. 3 more core worlds have declared martial law, and there are reports of enhanced beings being recalled for routine maintenance, which we both know means neural reset or termination. David's enhanced senses picked up the tension in Elena's voice. The woman who had converted an assassin through nothing but compassion was struggling with the knowledge that their success was causing suffering for others still trapped in the hegemony system. We can't save everyone, David said gently, though. The words tasted like ash in his mouth. No, but we can try to save as many as possible. Alex has a proposal, something ambitious even by our standards. They made their way through corridors that had been redesigned with community spaces, art galleries, and small gardens. The military efficiency of the original ship had been replaced with something more organic, more alive. Children played in areas that had once housed weapons systems, while elderly beings shared stories in lounges that had been ammunition storage. Alex was waiting in the strategy room, a space that had been Elena's private quarters until she'd insisted on converting it to a collaborative planning area. The being formerly known as X-2847 had chosen to remain in their enhanced form, but had removed most of the military modifications, leaving behind someone who looked more like an artist than a soldier. David, Alex said, rising as they entered. The gesture of respect still felt strange to David, who was used to being treated as either a weapon or a target. I've been analyzing the hegemony's response patterns to our expansion. And they're predictable. Every time we liberate a fleet or convert a world, they respond with increased oppression in the surrounding systems. More surveillance, harsher punishments for dissent, mandatory loyalty conditioning for all enhanced beings. Elena settled into one of the comfortable chairs that had replaced military briefing furniture. So our success is making things worse for people we haven't reached yet. In the short term, yes. But I think there's a way to turn that against them. Alex activated a holographic display showing the galactic political situation. Red zones marked hegemony-controlled space growing darker where martial law had been declared. Blue zones showed the liberated systems, spreading like ripples from their original position. They're consolidating power, which means they're also concentrating their enhanced forces in core systems. David studied the display, his tactical mind immediately grasping the implications. You want to hit the core systems directly. Not hit, Alex corrected. Liberate. But not through force, through truth. The hegemony's greatest weakness is that their entire system depends on enhanced beings who have never been told they have a choice. If we could reach them directly, the neural network, David breathed, understanding flooding through him. The same system we use to broadcast to your fleet. Exactly. But this time, instead of a single transmission, we'd establish a permanent connection, a way for enhanced beings throughout hegemony space to communicate with each other, to share experiences, to realize they're not alone. Elena leaned forward, her expression shifting from concern to excitement. An underground railroad for minds. The technical challenges are enormous, Alex continued. We'd need to penetrate the hegemony's most secure networks, establish relay stations throughout their territory, and do it all without triggering their security protocols. And even if we succeed, we'd be painting a target on ourselves that would make the last 6 months look like a minor disagreement. David found himself smiling, the expression that had once felt alien now coming as naturally as breathing. You're asking me to help you plan the most dangerous infiltration mission in galactic history. I'm asking David to help us give choice to millions of beings who don't even know choice exists. The room fell silent as the magnitude of what they were discussing settled over them. This wasn't just about liberating a few more ships or systems. This was about fundamentally undermining the hegemony's ability to control their enhanced populations. The risks, Elena began, are enormous, David agreed. If we fail, the hegemony will know exactly where we are and what we're capable of. They'll throw everything they have at us. And if we succeed? David looked at the holographic display, imagining millions of enhanced beings across the galaxy suddenly discovering they had choices, that they could be more than just tools in someone else's war. If we succeed, we change everything. Not just for us, not just for the beings we've already liberated, but for everyone. We prove that consciousness can't be contained, that the desire for freedom is stronger than any programming. Alex's form brightened with anticipation. So you'll help? David looked at Elena, seeing in her eyes the same faith that had converted an assassin into a person, that had turned enemies into allies, that had sparked a revolution across the stars. No, he said, and watched their faces fall. Then he smiled. I'll lead it. Elena's expression shifted to one of pure joy. David! This is what I was created for, David continued. Infiltration, tactical analysis, working behind enemy lines. The only difference is now I'm choosing my own mission. He stood, his enhanced frame casting familiar shadows across the room. Alex, I'll need detailed schematics of the hegemony's core network infrastructure. Elena, we'll need volunteers, people willing to risk everything to give others the same chance we've had. And if the hegemony tries to stop us? David's smile grew fierce, carrying echoes of the weapon he had once been, but tempered by the person he had chosen to become. Then they'll learn that there's nothing more dangerous than someone who's discovered they have something worth fighting for. Outside the viewport, the first students were arriving at the Interstellar University, beings from across the galaxy coming to learn not just facts and skills, but how to think for themselves, how to choose their own path, how to become something more than what they were designed to be. The revolution that had started with one small act of faith was about to become something unprecedented in galactic history. And at its heart stood a former assassin who had learned that the greatest weapon of all was the simple, transformative power of choice. The galaxy would never be the same.